freight train rolling, bringing truth bombs down the line. Promoting the Southland 1 week at a time. Promoting the Southland 1 week at a time. SCV Chat starts now.
Well, good evening, everybody. Hope everybody's having a great week. Before we get started, disclaimer: views and opinions expressed in this broadcast are not necessarily those of the SCV, its GEC, nor any division, brigade, camps, or other subsidiaries, strictly those of us who are expressing them. Hope everybody's having a good time. See Chuck McMichael in the chat. Faversham to him. Faversham to Jimmy Hill. Faversham to Sean McFall. Cousin Vinny. I'm still not over the fact that Vinny gave us vegan candy at reunion. Yeah, I know Lieutenant Commander in Chief Donnie Kennedy. I didn't know there was such a thing.
Thank God I'm south with Mason-Dixon and don't have to worry about something like that.
and I was looking on my deodorant this morning, and my deodorant is vegan. I don't know who would ever want to eat deodorant, but
hey, Harrison, we're glad to know he uses it, aren't we?
Oh yeah, 100%.
There are some that say I don't. Before we get started really off the bat, the one thing we've got to do is we've got to pay the bills really quickly. And of course, we're sponsored by a couple of great folks. One of them being 1175 Tactical out of Alabama. That is Carl Jones's company. He helps us by paying for our moose facts of the week. And our moose fact this week is moose meat is high in protein and low in calories. Moose meat is high in potassium. So it's kind of two facts all in one, but they kind of deal with the same thing. That moose is full of
moose hunting.
Yeah, that's a normal moose. Our moose is not low in calories and is very high in fat.
Oh, that was bad. That was bad. I knew it was coming.
You look real there.
He's probably gonna kick me off. Here's my sister. So anyway. Well, we're kind of doing new National Officer Week a little bit this week. Moose, you want to talk about Thursday show, provided that you don't get frozen?
Yeah. So this Thursday, a special new kind of lineup for this new year of SCV Chat. Every first month or every first Thursday in the month. Let me deal with this guy real quick. All right. First Thursday of the month, we're going to have Commander's Comments coming to SCV Chat. And, of course, that's when we will have our Chief of Heritage Operations, our new Chief of Heritage Operations, Mr. Donnie Kennedy, come on and talk with our new Commander-in-Chief, Jason Boshears. I'm looking forward to this. I cannot wait to see what the gentleman talk this week. So make sure to tune in for a look around the Confederation. So also, because of that, we will not do the news this upcoming Thursday. Show that is time sensitive, like an event. Please let me know immediately, an email, message, or anything like that. You can message the SCV chat page or my SCV page, not my personal page, please. And I will make sure that it's posted on the page and it gets the light of day that it deserves. But because of that, again, remember to send it. If you're sending in news that's time sensitive, let me know. But I'm ready for it. I have been looking forward to this for quite some time now. So make sure to tune in Thursday.
Yes, Thursday. It'll be interesting. Moose will be behind the scenes, and it'll be just like one of the other episodes of Commander Comments that we've had for the past two administrations, except it'll be live. But it'll be banked on our Facebook page as well as on our YouTube page. and you can rewatch it if you don't see it live. The good thing about doing it live is that you, the membership, have the opportunity to type in and ask. Oh, sorry, Ron just popped in. Y'all have the opportunity to ask questions in real time to the leadership.
Yeah, one thing, Connor, I'm going to mention a big thank you to Ray Shores at Victory Flagsmore for the last 4 years during the last two administrations. He has graciously done all our videos as far as did the editing and posting and everything. We were running, of course, when Paul, Commander Gramlin was with us, he and I would drive over there about 3 hours for him, 2 hours for me to Florida, Mississippi. When Commander McClooney was commander, he had to drive about an hour and a half, 2 hours. I have about a 2-hour drive there. It's physically impossible for Ron, who is literally 6 hours from Ray's place in Florida, Mississippi, and of course, Commander Boshears to come from essentially Columbia area every time. So we had to arrange something different. So Ron and Jason and I got together and decided this Zoom meeting would be the best type, or with as we're doing it now with the around the Confederation. So, but a big shout out and a big thank you to Ray Shores, who has been so gracious and so good to work with us in the past 4 years. And I can't say enough thank yous to he and his people for all the help they've given the SCV to get this up and running. So I just want to make that known in case people wonder, well, why are you not doing it like you used to do it?
Right. And Ray and his staff, I believe it was his daughter that did a lot of work on it.
Yes.
They did a great job with it, and we got some shoes to fill, or well, Moose has got some shoes to fill.
Well, he ain't nearly as pretty as that girl, I promise you.
Well,
Nope.
You're right. You are exactly 100%, 110% right, and I'm not going to argue with you on that. But anyway, so as we mentioned, it's kind of our new National Officers Week. It's a chance for you, the membership, to learn about our new guys who were elected in Cartersville, Georgia. To hear what their plans are for the upcoming term, what they want to accomplish, what we as members of the SCV need to be doing to accomplish those goals, and everything like that. And Moose went off the screen. So I'm actually.
I think Moose is jumping the fence.
Yes. But anyway, so I know it's still new to you, and I know you've been a little bit under the weather. But first of all, for those who've been living under a rock for the past 4 years, well, more than 4 years, but for sure 4 years, and don't know who you are, would you mind introducing yourself really quickly?
Yes, that's real simple. I'm Ron Kennedy's twin brother. Now, anything else? So Ron and I have been active in the Southern movement probably since, in a real physical way since about 1964. And when we really became, we were right out of high school and were introduced to the concept of what the SCV was all about, what the South was all about. Ron and I can very well remember, and we have relatives who were friends with Dr. McCain, the man that really held this organization together for so many years. And we just had a feeling that this right side of the story was not being told. And this is back in the 60s and 70s. You know, we never dreamed it would be as bad as it is now. But we always wanted to work with some group of people who were willing to put the Southern perspective out in front of Southerners in general, Americans in general, Southerners in particular. And that's why we've always been involved in some type of organization. Back in '85, Ron and I, somewhere in 85, 86, 87, I joined the SCV, I think in 85. And I've been a member of the Sons of Confederate Veterans, and I moved up from camp commander, division commander, councilman, chief of our heritage operation. And now, thanks to the membership, and I do not take this position lightly, but I do thank the membership for allowing me to serve as your lieutenant commander in chief. The whole idea of a good lieutenant commander in chief is not that he has his objective that he is pushing. He works hand in glove with the commander in chief to always be his assistant, to be his strong right arm, much like Jackson was to Lee in any battle and any event. So before I even took this position or even proposed to run for this position, I looked to see who was going to run for commander in chief. And it was obvious to me from 2 years ago, there was only one man that I was hoping would be the commander in chief, and that was Jason Borsiers. He was young enough, he was energetic enough, he was dedicated enough, and on top of that, he had the right ideas. Well, he was almost as good as my twin brother. He had the right ideas. He believed in the South, and he was not going to apologize for the South. And I'm sorry, fellas, I've been in this organization long enough to have lived through some people who really was more apologetic and just wanted to say, well, our ancestors fought for what they thought was right. BS, bovine fecal material, if you want it more plain. They fought for what was right. And that is why Ron and I eventually decided, we was hoping somebody would write a book that would tell that story. And we never saw one that met our expectation. They was always just a little bit shy about being bold. And fellas, we got to be bold now. We can't be timid. We got to be bold. So Ron and I came up with the idea of the book, The South Was Right. And I think that's where most people know us from. That book is probably sold over 100 and maybe 160,000 copies. And it is really teaching people what the South is all about. Now, I've got to tell you this story. I told this story at the convention, at the reunion. Ron and Frank and Sarah, Ron and myself and my wife, we were out at a bar eating the bar, and they had served food. So we had food and had drinks. And Ron was at the end of the bar. It was Frank, Sarah, my wife, myself, and then Ron. And we were having a good time. And some stranger, a young man, probably, I would say in his mid-30s, came sit down next to Ron and ordered a drink and some food. And he engaged Ron in a conversation. And he proceeded to ask Ron what was he doing there. And he said, well, I'm a member of the Sons of Confederate Veterans. We're having our reunion here. And the man just got ecstatic. He said, I am so sick and tired of people trashing the South. And he proceeded to tell Ron all the virtues of being a Southerner and why the war wasn't over slavery and why Confederates wasn't traitors, on and on and on. And Ron said, well, wow, you sound like you really know what's going on. Are you a member of the Sons of Confederate Veterans? No, I've read about them, but I don't know about them. Right? And Ron said, well, where did you read about them? He said, well, in a book that you ought to read. It's called The South Was Right. Now, how do you that tells you there's more people out there that agree with us than disagree with us. The last day we were there, Ron and I and Betty, my wife, went out to eat. And as we was going into the diner that we was going to eat at, some lady saw Ron's, I'm on the wrong side, I'm looking backwards, Ron's shirt with the logo on it. And she just stopped and looked at him. And I thought, wonder what she's going to say, And she just pointed at that flag, that logo, and said, I'm so proud that you're not afraid to show that flag. And then she began also telling us why the South was right. And then she went on her way. So twice in Georgia, in Cartersville, Georgia, we had this happen. And we probably all have had it happen to us before, but it's really heartfelt and heartwarming to have things like this to happen now. So as your lieutenant commander in chief, my first job is to work with Jason and assist Jason. Now, I have some plans that I want to push, yes. But before I even announce, I went to Jason and say, this is some of the things that I would like to do. Are you okay with this? Do you agree with this? Do I need to modify this? In other words, I want to start out ground one, first day that we're working together in unison, so we can go lockstep and work together. And yes, I had to tweak some things, but very few. And he and I came up with a plan. And yes, we're going to do some things a little different, make some proposals. Like I said, you've got to be bold. If you're going to win, you've got to be bold. You cannot be shy. You can't hold back. You can't pretend that your ancestors fought for what they thought was right. You've got to face the enemy, face on, and tell them, hey, fellas, the South was right. Now, if you don't think it's right, let's talk about it. We don't have to argue. We don't have to throw rocks at each other, but we can talk about it. So that's right now. Is my main objective is, as your lieutenant commander in chief, is to, number one, work with our commander in chief, work with all the divisions, the GEC and the divisions, and assist them in any way that I can be of assistance. I only work 1 day a week, so that gives me plenty of free time. If I'm needed somewhere, I'll be there. Just let me know. If I can help, I want to help. And Jason feels the same way. And many times, and I've talked to Jason about this, we may have an incident somewhere that they need one or both of us. If only one is needed, one can go. If both is needed, both can go. But we will be there. We will work. We are activists. I'm an activist. You know my history. You know, if you didn't want an activist, you should have had somebody running against me. So I got to put up with it for 2 years, folks. Sorry about that. But I will be an activist. I will be leading from the front. I'm not going to sit back and say, y'all go do this. We are going to do it because our cause is just, very just. And we are the people who can and will make a difference.
So what is step one for us to do?
Well, to me, step one is get our message, just like we say, take back the narrative. Paul Gremlin, Commander Gremlin, he said it very well 4.5 years ago that we've got to take back the narrative. We've got to put our message out in front of our people in particular and Americans in general and let them know what we believe and why we believe and that we are out there. So we're going to be pushing these things like what we're doing tonight, what y'all be doing on the commander's comment. But there's other things we need to do to start getting our message out in front of people that don't know who we are. But listen, you can look at your news right now and see that there are people of how things are seeking an alternative. They're seeking a group of people who will stand up and say, this is not right. We need to make a different plan here and do something differently. So I believe that that we can, by promoting the cause of the South, by allowing people to hear our perspective, we will knock a hole in the enemy's attack and we can eventually crush them. The thing about it is we have the facts, we have the information. Our job is to get that information to what I call John Q. Public. Ron and I laughingly refer to him as Billy Bible and Joe Sixpack. That's everybody out there. That's everybody else. They need to know why the South was right, why we believe that the South was right, and why is it important to America today. Look at what all is going on in this country right now. I hear news commentators after news commentators bemoan the fact that the federal government is doing things that is unconstitutional. Duh. I believe that started really big time in 1861 with the election of a guy named Lincoln. So we need to tell our side of the story and let America know why our forefathers fought in the war for Southern independence, and it's to keep control of government in our hands and not in the hands of a bunch of pointy-headed bureaucrats in Washington, D.C.
Well, that's bureaucrats in Washington, D.C., or Baton Rouge, Louisiana, or even, Jackson, Mississippi. That wonderful fourth branch of government. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Don't give me. I'll get on the soapbox.
You were talking about some of the things we can do. This is something that Ron and Jason and I have talked about quite a bit, and that's, quote, going national with who we are. There's some very big conservative type magazines and journals that we need to start putting ads in, and we don't need to advertise the Sons of Confederate Veterans as much as we're going to advertise the National Confederate Museum in Columbia, Tennessee, headquarters for the Sons of Confederate Veterans, where you will see an unpolitical correct view of the war and American history. Help us defend traditional American values. Visit Elm Springs, visit the National Confederate Museum, headquarters for the Sons of Confederate Veterans. Now, what you're doing is, if you try just strictly for the Sons of Confederate Veterans, you're going to get people saying, well, that's kind of an organization and we don't know a lot about it, and it's got the name Confederate in it. If you advertise for a museum, that's different. So you can get a little bit better twist on being the capability of getting your advertisement in these journals. And what you want to do is to let the world know, outside of Dixie and inside of Dixie. I've got one journal here. I get it's a newspaper, Epic Times. It's got something like over 250,000 people subscribe to it, and it goes nationwide. I think it's got, excuse me, I said a quarter. I think it's got close to 250,000 in the South, in the southern region, and about another 250,000 outside of the South. But if we can advertise there, we'll get people who are interested in, number one, the Sons of Confederate Veterans, because they see the museum. The museum. In our ad, we can have a QR code where they can put their phone on it and get a little video about the museum, about Elm Springs, about the headquarters for the Sons of Confederate Veterans. And if you want to know more about the Sons of Confederate Veterans, go here. So you're going to have people coming in all over the country. You know, what a lot of people don't realize, Nashville is a large tourist area. We're only 30 miles south of Nashville. We're in that area. People won't come necessarily all the way from Wisconsin to see our museum, but they'll come to Nashville, and while they're there, they've heard about the museum and they'll go see it. And then two things going to happen. You're going to start getting people who will begin to realize there's more to this story than they've been told. Great. That's a good job. And number two, politicians, local and national, will begin to listen and know that organization, that Sons of Confederate Veterans, they're not a fly-by-night group. They're a pretty big organization, and they're getting busy. And that's when you'll start getting some respect from the political establishment. Now, that's just one plan. There are other plans we have, because I've talked to a guy, y'all may have heard of him. His name is Forrest Dawes, about doing some video, 1-minute video for TV advertisement. And there are possibility in the future of getting that type of advertisement for the National Confederate Museum, Elm Springs, headquarters of the Sons of Confederate Veterans, on people like Tucker Carlson's show, Newsmax. That's another one. There are other smaller conservative news outlets that people will be more interested. Now, I could put it on NBC, maybe, if they take it, but that type of people are less likely to be interested than people who watch Tucker Carlson or Newsmax or places like that. If we start doing that, the political establishment, I promise you fellas, they will take notice, and they will begin to learn they cannot run roughshod over us, in which they've been doing that for too long. And we've allowed them to do that by being somewhat timid in our response to them. And we haven't been bold. I love Nathan Betris Forrest's idea. You've got to be bold. And, he said up front, war is about fighting and it's about killing. You've got to do it. If you're not going to do that, you need to get out of the conflict. And I'm not ready to get out of the conflict. I'm ready to fight hard.
Chuck Mack asked let me rephrase before getting to Chuck Mack's question. So the Lieutenant Commander in Chief has three. Support the Commander in Chief. He's in charge of recruiting for the Sons of Confederate Veterans nationally, and you've laid out pretty good work for your recruiting ideas. But as Chuck Mack pointed out, retention is our the one piece of the puzzle that we have trouble with. What is your big thing? What are your plans for retention?
Good. Yeah, retention was one of the first things I talked about when I announced that I was going to run for Lieutenant Commander in Chief. And any organization, I've been president of Lions clubs and been members of various different clubs. And one of the things I've noticed that people will join, they're full of enthusiasm, and their enthusiasm is allowed to wane and they drop out. Now, by allowed to wane, what I mean is that most time they're not invited in to participate in the organization, what the organization is all about. So one of the ways that we can do this to prevent this is for every new member that joins the Sons of Confederate Veterans, he needs to receive a letter, and I propose that I send a letter out to every new member, a U.S. mail letter to every new member, telling them, here's what we offer in the Sons of Confederate Veterans. Here's what your camp duties are. Here's what's done on a monthly or every other month in our Make Dixie Great Again effort. These are things that need to be done, and here are projects that needs to be done. Do that, and then on his email every month, send him email again telling him what's going on in the SCV. Here's what we got going on right now. We filed a lawsuit over here. We raised a monument over there. We've had a flag raising here. We've spoken at this group or that group. They need to hear things are going on. Their membership is worthy, and here's some of the things going on. And how are you doing in your camp? Is your camp involved in this? And why don't we offer them the opportunity to do so? So anyway, it's information, staying in contact for 1 year. If we can do that for 1 year, I believe that retention of those people will be much greater. They need to know who we are as the SCV, what we're about, and what projects are ongoing that they can be involved in, and the successes that we are having. If they just listen to the standard news, all they're going to hear is failure. We need to be sure that those new members' enthusiasm is maintained and propped up by telling them about the victories we had. I know in Mississippi, y'all have a monument going up there pretty soon. In October, I believe, if Chuck will correct me if I'm wrong, we'll be dedicating a monument at the Pleasant Hill battlefield. All these things they need to know, and they need to see some pictures. I'll send out on my email, I will put some photos in there of these events that's happening so people will know things are happening. People are performing in the Confederation, and I can be a part of it. So I think that is one of the best things we can do in retention. It's not the only thing. There are other things to be done also, but that is definitely one of the things that I want to get done very shortly. As a matter of fact, Ron and I are headed next week, if this COVID is totally clear, which I should be clear of it right now, but I'll wait another 5 weeks from today. And if all goes well, Ron and I will go to the headquarters, and we're going to look and talk to several people about what do we need to do to get this project started. Another thing that Ron and I are doing, we're working on the storyline there in the museum on reconstruction, and we definitely want to get some things going on that. In case anybody missed it, at the reunion, compatriot Kurt Lyons donated to the museum an original carpet bag. We hear the term carpetbaggers. These were the bags that supposedly Yankees came down south with nothing. They didn't have anything but what was in their carpet bag, but they went back with a carpet bag full of Southern property, money, gold, silver, and values. And that's where the term carpetbagger came from. And that was during Reconstruction. So Kurt Line has provided us with a really, I like Chuck Banks, I call it occupation. Well, we do on the storyline, as a matter of fact. And so anyway, that is one of the things that we really need to do, is to push the museum and finish that storyline up. And so Ron and I will be at the museum hopefully next week, working with Commander Jimmy Hill, who has done a wonderful job. Kudos to Commander Hill for all that he's done there in his work. And so we've got a lot to do there. So all these things are getting together. And actually, I was hoping this week I could do something, but COVID pretty well knocked me out. You may hear me clearing my throat. I am just now getting my voice even halfway back. I've had severe laryngitis along with the COVID, so I am just tickled to death to be able to be on here and talk to y'all. It's fun, and I'm bored out of my gourd staying at home. I'm not one to stay at my home and look at four walls. I fed my chickens, my cats, my dogs, and I walked around my hay field, and I want to talk to somebody. So I think next week, if all goes well, I will be at Elm Springs or at the headquarters, and we'll start working on some of this other stuff.
All right. So Victor Smith from Florida asked, does the Lieutenant Commander in Chief have any ideas on how to unbrainwash the younger generations and getting them to join us and embrace their Southern heritage?
Well, Victor, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I don't remember. I think it was when I was at the Sam Davis Youth Camp in Texas. I was talking to compatriot Kurt Lyons about the young people there. I think they had maybe 18, 20 young people there in Texas. One of the things we need to do is be sure that our SCV camps become involved in finding young people, boys, girls, and this is not strictly for boys, it's for young men, young women, to go to these various camps. I know Georgia's got one over in Virginia, North Carolina area. They've got one there. We need to send these young people to these camps so they can have fun. This is not sitting around being bored with funky little lectures. They really have a lot of fun, and they learn a lot of Southern history and tradition. That is one thing we can do. Another thing, as I said, I was talking to Kurt about this problem. He said, and I told him, I said, I know of 2 or 3 really nice books that are good for young people. People say from the age of 8 to 12, and then from 12 to on up to 18. And I said, we need to provide a list of these books for parents and grandparents. Children won't buy them, but grandparents, every birthday, Christmas, this makes great stocking stuffers for your kids. You can give them books. This is a great thing. I've got one little book here called Stories of Dixie by Nicholson, James W. Nicholson. Matter of fact, he's the guy that the main drag through LSU is named after. Don't tell anybody that, they'll remove the name. But he wrote a wonderful little, it's like a Little House on the Prairie. And either one of you gentlemen ever seen the little book, Little House on the Prairie? It's a book.
I know it's in the 3rd grade.
Yeah. All right. This book is almost like it. It's for, I would say, someone about 10 to 14 years of age. It's got it's got photos, it's got sketches, and it's about the movement of the people from Alabama into north central Louisiana. It was a family of white people, a family of black people. They were one family unit, and they moved to the wilderness of north central Louisiana and started their life there. And then James W. Nicholson, he grew up there and became a Confederate soldier and went off to war and came back, became a mathematician and chancellor of LSU University. But this is a great little book. It's an easy read. It doesn't talk about bloody, horrible scenes of war. It's a very good book. There's another book called Look Homeward, Hannah Lee. And I think we've got this one at our headquarters. But it is an excellent book. It's a fictional book, but it's based on historical fact. of the young people and the workers in Marietta. It was New Roswell, around Roswell, Georgia, that were taken by Sherman and the Yankees and literally sold into slavery out of the South into New York and into Ohio and up into Indiana. And her story about her, once she's there, living amongst the Yankees and trying to pull herself and her brother back into Georgia, and she finally makes it to Georgia. It's a heart-rending story of conflict and shows, number one, it shows how the people of the South loved their country, stood by their country, and always wanted to get back home. And it also shows how horrible the Yankees treated the civilian and children of the South. Now, interesting enough, this book is written by a woman from Oregon. Oregon's pretty blue, but it's a good book, and it's another one of those books. Ron mentioned Uncle Seth Fought the Yankees. That's another book. It's a thick book, but it's a compilation of short stories. And Ron's talking about taking Uncle Seth and making a smaller volume for children. And we've got several good people that can edit and also do artwork and do sketches and everything to go along with the stories. And that would be another good idea. But there are many books out there we need to get. And eventually, we're going to have to start producing some type of media that they can put in their little media players and look at and watch and play and whatever. I remember back during one of the presidential campaigns, and somebody came up with these little animated characters, and they were talking about this candidate and that candidate, and it just went like wildfire. We can do the same if we find out who can do this, and we need to promote things like this, because kids will read, but most of them will look at type of animation stuff on, I don't know what kind of game thing they even use now. I'm way out of that. I'm still back at Pac-Man. That shows how old I am. So anyway, but that's some of the things that we can do for retention. For attracting young people. Now, I think I forget whether it was Harrison or Connor. We talked about this one time, and I mentioned that younger people normally do not join genealogical organizations. So don't expect to do all this and get a lot of young people into a genealogical organization. But what you're doing, you are really nullifying all that evil propaganda that they've been poured into them. And it doesn't take much truth that will absolutely do away with the ignorance and evil of the Yankee Empire's propaganda. So a little bit of truth is like a flame in a dark building or small enclosure. A little flame will dispel a lot of darkness. A little bit of truth will absolutely cause the wall of Yankee propaganda to crumble. And that's what you want to do. You want to give these younger people that information when they're younger. They'll keep it with them. And then when they approach 30 and 40 and 50, they'll have a positive feeling about the South, and then they will want to join an organization like the Sons of Confederate Veterans. Now, there will be some young people join, but by and large, it's going to be people 40 years plus who join genealogical type of organizations.
We're just the weird ones, me and Harrison.
Yeah, we're weird.
In a good type of way.
Well, here's the thing. We bring the average age of membership down. So, and
well, I'm glad you do, but you got a long ways to go to bring mine down. That's all I got to say.
Well, I was going to say the average age and sometimes the IQ of the membership down as well. I'm talking about both of us.
I'll take it.
I've already insulted Harrison once on the chat, and he's already messaged me privately. So one thing that we were talking, we'll get to that one in a second. I swear I'm trying not to say back when I was something, but when Tom Strain was Lieutenant Commander in Chief, I served on his retention committee. And one thing that I believed in about retaining with our membership is our membership does not understand our organization. For the most part, our membership, all they know is that, my great granddaddy did this and did that. And and that's it. They don't understand how the organization works. They don't understand the camp, brigade, division, army, national level, and things like that. Would you be opposed to trying to create? And I know there's no national one size fits all, and I know that we have the camp handbook, but a new member handbook to try to maybe. I know you're talking about a letter, but something like that can be distributed to the new member so that they could understand our organization before they get they get fed up and leave.
Yeah, one of the things we really need is something like an extended brochure explaining the basic organization. And then, we were talking earlier about the Confederate, the Gray Book that was produced way back when. And we need, there you go, that is an old book that was put out by the Sons of Confederate Veterans back in either the 40s or the 50s. And it was based on one that was put out right after World War I. But we need something like an very updated version of that, something that's simple. The little book you had there, it was, I believe it was about 52 pages, easy to read, broken down into chapters so that people can understand. They'll get some idea of our views as SCV members. And we need that either a large brochure or a handbook. If you get them a handbook, if you get them too much, they're not going to read it. I would like to have a pretty good sized brochure that says membership, this is what we are, this is who we are, this is how we organize, and this is what we would like for each camp, each member of each camp to be involved in, things of that nature. And we do need that. And I think that could go along very well with, like I say, going out a letter and follow-up letters each month to the new members. And one thing about it, if we start this process more or less, and I say this is like tutoring a new member or mentoring a new member. If you do that, then in 5 years, you're going to have 5 years worth of members who really understand the organization better and understand what is expected in the organization. So the fruit of this endeavor will be seen long after I'm gone if we continue to do that. And like you say, Connor, we do need some type of handbook or booklet that can be given to new members early on. And I say that I would plan to do something that's more or less like an enlarged booklet. Membership could look at and find out, number one, what do they believe? Number one, what is expected of members? Number one, two, what's expected of camps? How is the organization organized? Who is in charge and why? A lot of people think because you carry the title of commander, you're a dictator. Well, you're not. Commander Brochures can want to do a lot of things, but he can't do it without approval of the GEC. Perhaps that's some things he can, some he can't. So people need to understand that. So that is one thing we need to do. Now, we saw a lady had a something on the feed here that I just read about her son was 14 and she wanted him to be well, he can join at 12 years of age. He can join. Where was that? There you go. Ellen McWhort. Yeah. I know this lady. She and I are friends. Well, Facebook friends anyway. Yeah, she said she wanted him to be a join as a cadet as soon as able to get him interested as a young father. Yeah, if he's not already a member, he needs to be a member and need to find a camp that he can be involved in. Absolutely. So I'm glad, Ellen, you put that up there. That is great information. And that's something that we all need to work on is young men who are interested. And a lot of these young men are reenactors, believe it or not. So if they're interested in reenacting, they are more than likely to be interested in the Sons of Confederate Veterans. So I remember when I first got started in the SCV, I became a reenactor. And one of the big complaints back then was reenactors are going to take over the SCV. No, that didn't happen. Reenactor, he's a member and loves it. Well, thank you, Alan. I appreciate that. That did not happen. Reenactors built the organization up and helped and assisted in that organization. And we have a lot of different people with different views and different things that they like to home in on as their special project, the thing that they enjoy more than other people. And let those people in and do their thing. All working together, we can really go forward and push forward. We're all are not going to think alike. We're not all going to have the same idea of what needs to be done right now, but we can. But listen, now, before I forget, because I'm sitting here talking, I'm looking at the time. One of the things that I want to push, and I'm hoping that Ron will make a mention of this on Commander's comment next Thursday when he and Commander Brochures are on there. We have Dixie Defenders. Please, if you're going to have a social event, a county fair that you're attending, or any type of gun show, especially, we have these Dixie Defenders. They'll cost you about 37 cents a piece. Send me an email at wdkennedy@reagan.com and ask me, and I'll get them to you and distribute these, because this is what I call a soft sale for the SCV. It's a very easy to read brochure type of flyer handout, broadsheet, and that people will really enjoy reading, and it'll give people an idea of who we are. It's got a nice ad about the museum, and it's got QR codes for people to look at, to go to find out about Monuments Matters and why we feel the way we do in the South. So distribute these in your areas, and remember, you may only distribute 100, and maybe only 50 of those get read. But those things will absolutely generate talk and interest. And one thing that Ron just mentioned to me, said tell the people that the ads, that we do have ads, 2 ads on the, we have the big ad for the Confederate Museum. Then there's a smaller ads on the side. Right now, Ron and I are buying ads for our books. If anybody wants to replace those ads and have, I think it's $150 an ad per 1,000. So if you want to put your ad on there, all you have to do is get in touch with me and come up with the money, and we'll have the ads on there. If you want to have books, if you got events, if you want to advertise your camp. And also on these Dixie Defenders, there's areas that you can put by the ad itself in the Dixie Defender. There's spaces you can put the name, address, and contact information for the local SCV camp that's distributing this. So you'll get a double whammy there, both for the SCV nationally and for locally. So I encourage people to look at the Dixie Defenders and utilize that. That's just one more tool that we are using to try to keep people involved in the Southern Heritage Movement. Make sure people understand that they have a right to be proud of who they are. You know, it's a shame that today every type of vulgar flag can be flown, but yet the Confederate flag, a flag that was probably is a more honorable and noble flag than any that they're currently flying. Those flags can fly, but the Confederate flags are being banned. But here's the important thing, and Ron and I just proved this with the polling that we did in Louisiana. The conservative voters are 99% in favor of what we are in favor of. The general population in Louisiana, this includes Black, white, young, old, metropolitan country, conservative, liberal, Democrat, and Republican. According to LSU poll, almost 74% of those people do not see the Confederate flag and heritage as something that they should be ashamed of, or we should get rid of. So the people are on our side, but we've got to work to make sure they stay on our side. And we've got to educate them. We've got to motivate them. and we got to activate them. By activate them, I mean we got to get them involved in this effort.
Well, really quickly, you have time for us to take a quick break, pay the bills, and come back with 2 or 3 more things?
That'll be great, sir. Give me
All
time
right.
to get some voice rest.
All right. Yes, sir. So, as I mentioned, we have several great sponsors here. Victor, I got to call Ray and talk to him about potentially a T-shirt idea. T-shirt idea. Little hint there for our folks out there, and see if he'd be willing to do another run of T-shirts to kind of help us pay the bills here, and we'll advertise for him. But one person that really is wanting us to advertise his books is past Commander-in-Chief Larry McClooney. You guys, you've seen Larry on the show before. He has 3 books out. The Yazoo Pass Expedition, that is the only book written about the Yazoo Pass expedition. On to Vicksburg, which is about General Grant getting his butt kicked in the Central Mississippi Railroad campaign with Earl Van Dorn, and his new one, In Defense of Beauregard, which is about Larry defending Beauregard. But it's very well written books, all of them. The Beauregard one is his newest, and it is we did a review on it a couple weeks ago. It's very interesting because it's not written like a biography or anything like that. It's written more like a court case where he lays out the facts, especially challenging modern academia about General Beauregard and his legacy. Those books are available at LarryMcClooney.com. You can go to Larry, that's LarryMccluney.com. Check the books out. I think you can get them on Amazon. I'm not sure if In Defense or In General Beauregard's Defense is on there yet or not. But just check the site. His contacts information is on there. He will contact him. He'll be happy to set up a time to either come to your camp and talk about the books, or if you want to purchase directly from him, he can take the payment over the phone, sign the book, and mail it to you. These are very well. Very, very easy, quick reads, very good. My favorite is the Yazoo Pass Expedition one because I'm mentioned in it. So really quickly, we're going to take a short commercial break, about 1 minute and 56 seconds, and we'll be right back.
There is a place nestled in the rolling farmland of southern Middle Tennessee. A home constructed in 1837, nearly lost to the ravages of war. Saved by a servant and a Confederate general. A place where families loved and lost. If walls could talk, what stories could be told? If a place, a home, can feel love, loss, pain, surely this is one of those places. Nearby is a more recent structure, and inside are the stories of heroes and heroines, stories of battles won and lost, stories of sacrifices made by the people of its native soil. A place that will tell the true and complete story of the Southland and the war fought for its freedom. From the causes that led to the conflict to the modern-day struggles to protect Southern history. Historic Elm Springs and the Confederate Museum at Elm Springs are the general headquarters for the Sons of Confederate Veterans. A place where the story of the Southland and its historic struggle is preserved and told. Come and discover your history.
And we're back.
Hey, fellas, just think, wouldn't you like to see that ad on Tucker Carlson show, on Newsmax? And just think about it. And I know we're going to have to truncate this a little bit, but I'm living for the day we can see that. and you can book it. Once we start doing that, you're going to have a lot of people interested in the Sons of Confederate Veterans.
No kidding. No kidding. Maybe also a Super Bowl ad.
Oh, wow. You know how much those things cost?
Yeah. What's another $10 million?
Oh, man. I don't want to talk about that.
It's
I was
only
feeling
money.
good till you mentioned that.
Anyway, so a couple of things that we wanted to talk about. Two of them from the chat, and one is from me. Do you plan on doing any more Faces ads? While I know you talked about the Forest TV ads on Tucker Carlson, but do you plan on doing any more of the Faces style ads like past Commander in Chief Bo Shears and McClooney did?
Well, I would hope so, because those seem like they worked well. But I'm looking at many different ideas. And of course, I'm not the boss. Everything I can come up with a lot of ideas. And one thing about the Kennedys, we can come up with ideas. That's no problem. A plethora of ideas, but we got to run them through first Jason and then the GEC. But we need to do more to get a nice face of the SCV out there. And we've done some very good ones, and we need to continue that process. But again, where do you put them? We can make ads relatively inexpensive. It's posting them and having them. It doesn't do any good for us to swap them amongst each other. We've got to get them out where the general public can see them.
Well, that's if our membership will take the tools in the toolbox and use them. Of course, if you want to get a copy of those ads, visit MakeDixieGreatAgain.org, and those ads, as well as some radio ads and a bunch of other great stuff, is on there, part of the toolbox for you to use. See how that was a nice little transition there?
Little segue.
Yeah, king of the segue. Second thing, Jack DuPont is a young man here from Mississippi, and he asked, are we planning on making any new brochures? The current ones, and I'm going to double out on, but right now the current ones are saying that the museum is coming soon. An updated one would be great. But I know we talked about the Dixie Defender, but any other free, I say free, but recruiting materials, are you going to try to push out there?
Well, absolutely, because everything we've got now, well, not everything, but a lot of things we have is dated. And like you say, we need to redo and take another look at how we state some of the things in this material. And the problem is, and some people come up with a great idea and they'll give it to you and they say, how come it's not already done? Well, we're a volunteer organization. I'm blowing the old horn's been blowed before, but if I could just pick up the phone and say, look, we need this, let's get it done, that would be great. But right now, next Thursday, that may be one of the things that we can put on our list is talk to Jason about, and Ron and myself and Jason come up with some good ideas, and then we'll go from there. Because most of this, I believe that Jason can just say, hey, let's do it. So it it doesn't have to be run through, the GEC and that sort of thing. But what we'll normally do is present it to them, say, hey, look, we're making some changes here. You got any suggestions, that sort of thing. But it should be able to be done relatively soon. And we ought to be able to print these out, because you can't make it so big and so massive that the cost is such that we as an organization can't afford to be handing them out. So
Right.
That's one of the things you have to look at. And what I would like to be able to do is have these pamphlets printed up, and then just ask the camps, to buy 100 of them, and at cut rate, it just covered a little bit of the expense, and then we can ship them to you. And 9 times out of 10, the shipping will cost more than the printing. So I found that to be the case with Dixie Defenders. So I had somebody buy 100 Dixie Defenders, and by the time he paid that, and I said, well, sorry, but UPS is charging me almost as much the cost of the Dixie Defender. So and somebody asked, does a Dixie Defender change quarterly? No, the Dixie Defender is not a periodical that comes out. It is something that if you've got something in your area that you want to address and you think that it can be done under the format of a Dixie Defender. All you got to do is give us a call and we can put it together and get Frank Powell to print it up, and it's going. And I'll give you an example here in Union Parish in North Louisiana, and it was named after the original Union, not Lincoln's Union. In Union Parish, we were talking about perhaps doing a Dixie Defender, printing up 1,000. It's going to cost us about that small amount, probably costs us about 38 to 42 cents a piece, but print up 1,000. So at the next festival or something, we'll have that to give out about what happened to Confederacy in Union Parish. There's a lot of Confederate history by men who went to war and came back and became really foundational members of Louisiana society. One of the first one of the first speakers of the House after Reconstruction was Bolton, James W. Bolton from Shiloh in Union Parish here, Louisiana. He was a big banker and everything. So they were very important people, these Confederate veterans. After the war, they did not stay defeated. They built society back. And we can do that in every area. You can do it for your state, your division, or whatever. So, yeah, unfortunately, it is not unfortunate, but it's never intended for the Dixie Defender and the Southern Defender to be a quarterly type of thing, or it's just something that we will put together and utilize as needed in different areas.
Yeah, and I don't know how hard it would be to add one page to it, but I would think it'd be beneficial for one page in there, maybe even the center page, being a two-sided application on one side and family tree on the other.
Unfortunately, when you start doing that, you're driving the cost way up.
Right.
And we're trying to make it inexpensive. Now, what we can do is put QR codes on there that they can go to their phone and do something like what you're talking about, like that. So that's something to consider, and we ought to talk about that.
Yeah. All right. So Dennis Stubbleville wants to know: can the Defenders be purchased from, or how can a camp get them?
All right. Hey, Dennis, just email me at wdkennedy@reagan.com. Or you can, I think they're right now I'm putting together a Lieutenant Commander CiC SCV email. But either way, get in touch with me. Tell me how many you want. I'll tell you how much it'll cost and the approximate shipping cost. And don't be shocked if the shipping costs as much as the pamphlets or the Defenders. But by all means, get a hold of me. And if we happen to be coming, in your direction, I can bring them and hand them to you, which would be great. So if we can do that, that would be great. But most of the time, I have to ship them, and the cheapest way I found so far is UPS. If y'all got a better idea, let me know, please.
Moose mail.
Is that where I just have to go drive to Louisiana?
Exactly. And pick them up from Donnie and drive to Alabama and drop them off at Dennis. Yeah.
No.
Hey, no problem. I have no problem with that.
I ran there. Get it in about 2 months.
Final segment for this evening, and we're going to have to call it quits. BK Turner's been talking about the cadets
Yes.
program. He's wanting to talk about potentially adding with the national reunion a venue or something for the cadets. While we can't force any host camp to do something like that, if a host camp or division or brigade, whomever's hosting a national reunion, wants to, we think it would be a great idea. But is there anything we can do to kind of revitalize the cadet program? I know they get I think they get a pin and a certificate. Do they even get a magazine?
No, not that. They get the Confederate veteran, don't they?
Right. Well, I'd say that's what I don't know if they get the veteran or not.
Here's an idea. All right, just off the top of my head, and this is something else that we might need to put on the list and talk to Jason next week about. We need to maybe just put together a newsletter. If they get the Confederate veteran, that's one thing. Let's put together a newsletter for them. And I would recommend that this comes under the Heritage Operations thing. Put Ron in charge of making it, see that we can get some newsletter put together. Well, I'll get some email quickly from that. But that's one way you could have the cadets and then show cadet activity and really who they are and things of that nature. That might be one of the things we could do.
Right. And Chuck Mack had mentioned earlier, Confederate themed coloring books and stuff like that. Well, when I was editor of my camp's newsletter, I always put in some type of page for the cadets, a cadets corner with either a coloring page or a word search or yeah, he commented in.
Load down the wagon because I'll be carrying.
Hey, listen, Ron had a tooth extracted today, and I thought that he'd still be asleep from the anesthesia and everything, and sedative that he had to take to go to the dentist. So, but obviously he's still awake.
Yeah, and we're stirring up a little bit of a hornet's nest with it. With the fact that the kids only pay they don't get the Confederate veteran because they pay a one-time dues and no money for publication and stuff like that. So that's definitely something that we may want to, or whomever wants to look into.
It's something to talk about. I'm very strong for the cadet program. I was a cadet.
One thing about if you do an email type of electronic newsletter, it doesn't cost us anything. And so that would be a perfect outlet. And I can just see a newsletter with a couple stories and sketches about Uncle Seth fighting the Yankees on there. I bet we could get Ron to do one of those for us also.
And if anything, we could potentially raise the cost of digital, and especially with the kids nowadays being more digitally active.
Digital savvy.
It's something that could be in there. But it's something. Do young people email, Ron? Back when I was in high school, my freshman year, I was issued a student's email account, and that was many years ago.
We still have to use email.
Yeah, well, one of the things about young people, about doing things like this for young people, that gets them involved in the SCV, and we need something such as a newsletter or something so that they will continually be reminded who they are and that they are part of this organization. So I think the email, sending out a newsletter via email would probably be one of the cheapest, and it won't be easy because somebody's got to put the thing together. And it's not always people who get these things. They look at it and think, "Oh, it's nothing to that." No, it's work to put one of these things together. So, but somebody's got to do it. So we ought to be looking into that idea.
Well, at least kick it around a little bit, see what we got. Jude Irvin, you're commenting on that. We have an SCV chat TikTok, Ron Kennedy, where we have been reaching, I think the video I did on my ancestor reached about 1,500 people. But Jude, that's something that we're planning on trying to do with War of Rights. But that's something that Moose and I are raising money for computers on. Jude Irvin talked about that we need a video game. There's a video game that came out that was completely self-funded years ago, or not years ago, but the past 5 years, called War of Rights, and it takes place during the Antietam campaign, and it's first person, so you can actually form. There are groups of people in Germany who have formed their own Confederate regiment. They get online at some time all together, and then they go and they shoot at each other. So it's like it's modern day. Well, it's digital reenacting, but Harris and I have been kicking around the idea of starting our own War of Rights thing made up of SCV chat people. It's just getting the computers that can hold it.
It'll take a good computer.
Right. Anyway, well, we've been at it for 1 hour and 10 minutes exactly. Lieutenant, I was about to call you Chief, but Lieutenant Commander Chief Kennedy, we
I
appreciate
took the
you being
feathers
on.
off now. I'm not chief. I
Well,
passed my feathers to someone else.
luckily the head size is about the same.
Right.
Anyway, we appreciate everybody coming in and commenting tonight. It's been a great discussion. I know that I'm looking forward to having a look forward to the next 2 years under your part of the commandership. Make sure to share this episode and join us Thursday for Commander's Comments live at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Sorry, I didn't know what Moose was putting up there. But anyway, David, I think hit the nail on the head. It's a good show. It's a good basis for vision. Only thing that we can do now is grow and continue to do it. You guys, we have new leadership. It's our time to stand behind them and follow them, and let's reclaim our heritage. But until Thursday, when we have Commander's Comments on, we're going to sign off from here, and we're going to end with the words of the late, great Harold Philpotts, no Fumar in the elevator.
No Fumar in the elevator.